G'day everyone. Today's chat's a little bit different. We spoke to Keryn from one agency, Gympie. Keryn has a background in PR and marketing, but it was also very, very interesting to talk to her about why Pete and her moved to Gympie to start a business. They were from Melbourne, then Brisbane, and moved to Gympie. It was a really fascinating conversation with so much great information in there. So make sure you watch right to the end because Keryn just absolutely nails it right to the end. Over to you, Keryn. Hi, Keryn.
Hey,
Hey, thanks for taking the time to have a chat with us. I hear it's super busy in the real estate world at the moment, so we really appreciate your time.
thank you for having me.
No worries at all. So, one agency, you guys have come to town and are kicking goals. I see one agency signs everywhere. I may have sent a couple of pictures to you and Pete and said, hey, look, it's Pie Creek Pete. It's like you've taken over the place. I thought it would be a great opportunity to have a chat with somebody that's come to Gympie with fresh eyes, because for us that have been here for a long time, it's really easy to sort of get stuck in our ways, if you like, and not see what we've actually got here. And I've actually wanted to speak to you about what brought you to Gympie as well. And you and I have chatted a bit about it before, and I find it really, really interesting, the story of what is bringing people here to Gympie, because
Yeah.
hey, I've always thought it's fantastic, but it's great to speak to people that are professionals coming to Gympie to start businesses. It's so great. So you've got a marketing and PR background, and Pete looks after the sales side of things in one agency, Gympie. Got to throw in the fact that you also won the most popular business. What was it called? The
People's choice.
People's Choice. I only wrote it on the website 400 times. You'd reckon I'd remember it. So it won People's Choice in the Chamber Awards last year. So obviously kicking goals, obviously doing things really well. Can you tell us about how you did it, how you do it?
Yeah. Look, it's interesting because we moved to Gympie about 4.5 years ago, and we just fell in love with the town. We moved here with some different backgrounds. Pete and I met at Mercedes-Benz Financial Services 15 years ago, probably. Pete was a general manager there. I was doing finance and insurance, and met and had the work romance, and that was in Melbourne, and then we moved to Brisbane about 5 years later, and did Brisbane for about 7 years. And we just wanted to move our family somewhere that we would have a sense of community, and we would feel that the schools were smaller, the more looked after. We drove through Gympie on our way to Harvey Bay camping, and we stopped and just went, we should look here. Major draw card was the affordability.
Yep.
Gympie is so incredibly affordable, and that's something that really drew us here. And that is, during these current times, a huge draw card for Gympie, because we're already in the last year seeing people moving from, I would say that more than half of our contracts are people moving up from Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Sunshine Coast. So we're getting a big influx of people that are families looking to have that sense of community, but still work, small businesses, things like that. So that was the biggest draw card for us moving up here, and just kind of ingraining ourselves within the society.
Lovely. And it's really interesting to hear that. When you were travelling through to go to Harvey Bay, did you get off the highway and into town? Did you have a drive around town?
Well, not all the way through. So we stopped at McDonald's, like everyone does, and then we actually stopped at the Kura real estate, and that's where we were looking at prices. And we actually thought something was wrong, because we were obviously, being from Melbourne and then Brisbane, we were thinking, what's going on? So we were up there for 5 days, and we were researching on the internet and stuff. And then on our way back through, we came in, we drove through town, did a bit of a recce, went home and had the conversation of, is this what we want to do? I've always been horsey. For me, having acreage was a big thing. to buy acreage down anywhere Brisbane, Sunshine Coast was going to double our mortgage. And that's not really the direction we wanted to go. So we looked a bit further out, but my requirement was I'd like acreage, but I'd still like to be close to town, to Bunnings, to Woolworths, to those types of places that I, as a first world human being, really enjoy. So that was it for us, and we found a great school for our kids. They're at Victory College. It was amazing. So it's fit our family really well, and a lot of people that we're talking to are doing the same thing, just wanting a bit more of a lifestyle place for the kids to run around, etc. So that was kind of the reasoning behind moving up here. Starting the business was a really big decision for us, and a scary decision. And Gympie has a lot of real estate agencies for the size of the town. So, and we know that. So for us to start yet another one was a pretty big step in our lives. Pete and I, we always joke, we're not great to have people, but we make one great whole person.
Nice.
So within the business, we can cover a lot of aspects of business with the two of us. So he's the sales guy. I do the books, I do the marketing. We tend to complement each other, and don't override. So that to us was a big thing, because in starting the business, one of the things I wanted to talk about was keeping overheads down and not spending a fortune. And for us, we're able to cover a lot of those things without outsourcing. And there are things that we do outsource because we don't have the knowledge, but we've chosen the things that are things that we don't have knowledge on, and taken on board the things that we think, yeah, okay, we can do that. We've run businesses previously, so we have that experience, and I was a bookkeeper as well. So that part of it was covered, which was a big one for us.
That's a great takeaway for local business, is perhaps concentrate on the things you do know and you can do yourself, and perhaps look at outsourcing the things that you may struggle at or would be a waste of your time. So I'm a perfect example of that. I think, I can do everything. I don't worry about this. I'll take care of it. And then I'm 3 hours deep in something that would take a professional 5 minutes. And then I realize I've been silly. I really do need to seek some help. And a perfect example is a bookkeeper. We use a local bookkeeper because it's just beyond me.
That's exactly, I guess, one of the things that is really important within the business is find the things that you can do, but don't try to do everything. And I mean, I've spoken to you previously about social media. Like, we laughed, I have marketing and public relations, but when I did my degree, social media didn't exist. So that has been doing courses, learning for me. I enjoy it, so I'm happy to learn it. But if you're not a book person, don't do it. It is the most important part of your business. So if you don't do the accounts, get a good accountant. They cost money. It saves you a fortune. Same thing with the social media. If you're not a social media person and you're not into that technology side of things, don't try, because it comes across as half done. And within a business, you want everything to come across as being done well and being in control. And I call it confidence. You need to exude confidence in every part of your business. So if you can't, get somebody that has the confidence to do it.
Wow, what a great analogy. It costs money, but it saves you a fortune.
It does.
What a great takeaway. I'm gonna put that one on the board. It costs money, but it saves you a fortune. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And it comes down to, as well, with the financial side of the business, is things that do cost you money. You may not have somebody call you up and go, hi, you may not get that direct lead. But if you're exuding that confidence and you paid somebody to promote that confidence for you, it's coming back in customers. Whether or not you have that direct that direct confirmation. A customer doesn't come in and say, hi, I saw you on Facebook, unless you specifically ask them.
Yeah.
But you're developing your brand, or somebody may say, oh, I saw these guys advertising, or same thing with the radio, like you just hear things on the radio, and that's your branding. And to me, branding is the most important part of any business, and branding does come across in every single aspect of what you do.
Absolutely. And now more than ever, because it's a different world we're in at the moment. You've got people that are at home. We've basically not left the house other than going to Woolworths and the post office. We already worked at home, so it wasn't that big a change for us. But you've got people stuck at home. They're not driving past your bricks and mortar store. They're not going to walk in, perhaps, to bricks and mortar store. So how would you go about branding at the moment, given COVID-19? What would you focus on?
Well, I think branding for us and what we've done is quite different to a lot of the other agencies in town. And this is something that Pete and I spoke quite a bit about. And we chose our brand because the ethos of that brand was what we believed in. And the founder of one agency, there are one agencies all throughout Australia, and his biggest takeaway was, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And that to us was a big thing. And not having an office for us, we have an office in town that we can use to sign contracts, etc., that we share with someone else, but we don't advertise an office and have a shop front per se, because in today's society, people go onto realestate.com and Facebook and Google. They don't walk into the door and look at the signs unless they happen to be walking by. And that is the branding side of things that in today's market has been really important, because if you've overspent on, and obviously it depends on the business, for something like a cafe or something like that, it's completely different. But cut down your overheads as much as possible, so that you can keep some of those funds going into things like marketing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And today's society market, you've got to choose what works for you. So you've got to try every aspect. You try the paper and the social media and the word of mouth and all of those things. Don't try to do everything. Find what works. And the only way to know what works is to ask people if they've seen. Have you seen our ads? Like, we've all got tons of friends that we talk to and tons of people and associates. If you're at your local cafe, say, hey, you know what? Do you read the paper? Do you listen to the radio? That's your general audience. So find those places.
It's one of the real fundamental things that a lot of people don't do is, how did you find us? How'd you get a hold of us? Where'd you see us? As soon as you answer the phone, I mean, granted, somebody that works at Woolworths isn't going to ask that of every call, but somebody that's in a bricks and mortar store that the phone doesn't ring 150 times a day, it would be fantastic to find out where people found you, because that right there is the best research you can possibly do, the best market research. You might actually find that people are finding you some way that you haven't been giving any notice to. Yep.
We had that experience. Sorry, cut out there for a minute. We had that experience. So we kept asking, and I said to Pete, and I had this guy call me, and he was asking for an appraisal and stuff. I'm like, look, where did you hear us? And he said, and he was English, and he said, I heard that crazy pommy on the radio. And, like in asking people, we got a lot of feedback where we went, okay, this is working for us. This is a huge thing. And I'm blessed to have a husband that has a unique and, in my view, sexy voice. So it stands out on the radio. But, like those things that you don't think about. And social media, I mean, you know a lot about social media. You know what works and doesn't work. But with social media, you get that list of who's clicked, who's interacted. It's very laid out for you. Whereas some of the other avenues, you still have to ask, because you don't know. You don't know your results, and you don't know what's working unless you ask people.
Absolutely. We've actually found over the last couple of years that there has been a tendency for people to almost treat advertising like a chore and almost like a tax is the way I describe it. So they'll write a $1,500 check to the radio and that's it. I've done it. That's all I've got to do. I don't have to do any more work. That's it. They don't qualify where people come from, and they don't find out if the radio is actually working for them. So it's really money down the drain, in my opinion. Anything that you spend money on that you don't find out if it works, it's crazy. And we did see that a lot. People sort of had the opinion that social media, websites, and that sort of stuff were a bit too much work because I can just pay my money to the Gympie Times or to the radio, and then I don't have to do anything, which really isn't the case. It really isn't the case, and we've seen that quite a bit. It's what would you suggest they do there? Should they measure that stuff?
Well, I always measure everything, but I think what a lot of people do is they find the median and they go, okay, here's my medium, here's where my money's going. If they don't have a target audience, I mean, the first thing you do with any business is find your target audience. Who are you targeting? And go and find out what that target audience uses. In real estate, it's such a vast target audience. You know what I mean? Like, unless we're not targeting kids, but we're really targeting 20-year-olds up to retirement.
Yep.
So you can't cover all of that. So you have to choose your target marketing as to the audience you're covering. Because the worst thing you can do with your branding is to change your branding to much different audiences. So you don't want to change your logo. And so at one agency, our branding personally for us is very simplistic. And it targets that kind of, I'm going to say, middle age and 30s to 50s. We may miss a little bit with that branding on each end, but it still translates to them. But we certainly target a specific demographic. So if you don't have that target audience and you don't know who you're targeting to, your marketing is going to miss everyone. It's just a given. So for us, develop that target, develop the branding. Don't change your logos every year, every 2 years. We talk about logos in your biggest logos, McDonald's, Coca-Cola. How often have they changed?
Never.
You know, they update their branding, but they never change their logos. They never change. You always know what you're looking at. And that's something that the more you change things and the more you mix it up, people think either you're confused or it's changed again, or maybe it's under new management, or there's so many things that go through people's mind when they should be thinking about what you're doing and not why you're changing.
Absolutely,
so for
yes.
us, the target audience for us is a huge thing, and figure out your target audience, and then find out what that target audience is doing. So if you are a skate shop, you're generally going to forget about the 40, 50 pluses generally. So find out what that younger market is doing. Like, we all know there's all kinds of things, social media, etc., out there that, I mean, I wouldn't even know about. TikTok, I'm not on. I know about it, all that kind of stuff. But that's where you want to target. So you've got to change your marketing to really translate to the people that you are targeting. And that's been a big one for us to figure out.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I believe the fancy industry term for it might be a customer avatar. So yeah, just finding out who your perfect customer is and then advertising to them. So I love your example that the skate shop, they certainly shouldn't be advertising in the RSEQ magazine. But on the flip side, if you're a local mechanic shop, TikTok's probably not the right place, and Instagram's probably not the right place. So it may be radio, Facebook, and the Gympie Times that suits you.
Exactly.
And we spoke yesterday to Ben Riches from Enrich's Business about Google Ads, and they seem to be a pretty good way to test things because you can get really specific data on them. So perhaps maybe even Google Ads would suit local businesses as well. with the radio stuff, are you still advertising on the radio? Sorry, I don't listen to the radio.
Absolutely. For us, I was an account manager, did sales for a radio station for quite a few years. So I have a very good knowledge of the radio. So I was lucky moving here. I had some ins and outs on what works and doesn't work on the radio. So for us, radio is one of our biggest forms of advertising. We get such an impact from it. And everyone thinks, oh, the radio is so expensive. It doesn't have to be. And for us, we do quite a bit of advertising on the radio, but it does work for us. We've had that come back to us. So for us, we know it works. But having the relationship with your account manager, and that be it radio, be it newspaper, be it anything, sit down with them for an hour and talk about your business. Because the more they understand it, the more that they can target your ads to that. And we all do that in social media, but people think they're signing up with the radio and they go, oh, okay, well, we'll do some radio ads. Look them up, find out what they're doing, and talk to the guys, have that relationship with them so that they know, so that when they're doing their ads, or they can make suggestions. Our radio rep has given us some fantastic suggestions. Nugget now give us suggestions all the time. They're not so fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's that relationship with them and that's not just the radio, that's with any medium you're doing, is, as you were saying before, people kind of write that check and go, okay, I've done the radio, or I've done this and it's done, thank goodness. But it shouldn't be. You should put that effort into your marketing and tell them about your brand, what works, what doesn't work. And a good way, you said, with the Facebook and Google ads, you get such a clear picture of which ads work. So a black one may get more results than a white one. That kind of simple stuff. You can see who's clicking. Well, translate that into your newspaper. Translate the wording into your radio, because you know it works, and you've got the data for it to work.
Absolutely. And I actually worked for a local business for quite a few years. That was Gympie four-wheel drive spares and motorcycle country. And for years, the Yellow Pages was their Lord and Savior. They spent $35,000 a year with the Yellow Pages, which is crazy to think of now. But they had a specific phone number with a free call number that they could measure. They just measured. Okay, so we're spending $35,000 a year, and that's turning into pick a figure, and so it's worth it. But they had that way to measure even the Yellow Pages. So once again, it gets back to that measuring things, because geez, it's so easy to tip so much money into marketing and not know if it works.
Well, and that's the scariest thing about marketing, and that's why a lot of people go, I'm not doing it. And in times like these, when things are tough and businesses are struggling, marketing's the first thing to go, and that should be your.
Yeah, it's true.
It's proven that in the GFC, in the recession, the people that advertised came out of it on a level par. The ones that stopped advertising got left behind. It is a very proven, I mean, you can go look at stats upon stats upon stats about it, but advertising is important. Now, I guess during these times and with small businesses in Gympie, you can't say to a lot of people, go hand over thousands to so-and-so. So you have to use your advertising wisely. And there are so many mediums out there that are free. It takes time. So you can do LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things. Yeah. They take time to go and do the posts and post them. But right now, if business is slow, you've got the time to do it.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's hard. The hardest part is just getting started. Because I find it myself too. If I sort of get down and in a bit of a slump, you find yourself in a downward spiral of negativity, and it's hard to get out of that. And I've physically got to pick myself up and get myself out of that. And I'm sort of the like the canary in the coal mine in our office. So if I'm down, everybody's down. So
because you're always up.
Yeah. Oh, it's the medication. I'm kidding. So yeah, it's hard to pick yourself up and really give it a crack. But gee, there's some opportunity, and there are some companies at the moment in town that I actually want to do a whole video about success stories and pivot stories in town, because we've got, coming back to it, we've got a perfect example in the Real Body Movement. Local gym, also winners of Chamber Awards over the years. That they overnight, they had to turn off their business. The government just said, I'm sorry guys, your business is turned off. And they didn't just give up, they went online overnight. They are, Matt and Fee are just unbelievably motivated people, and I take my hat off to them all the time. Overnight, they turned all of their classes into online classes. So I did one this morning with Matt on Zoom, and it works great. It works fantastically. They've got 160 odd people, I think, in their tribe, in their Facebook group, and they are still providing them a service and still looking after their clients, but just in a different way. So sometimes it's just picking yourself up and thinking about how to pivot is the hardest part. But once you get started.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing you could do with that, and look, I've been really blessed moving to Gympie because I'm supported by some amazing people, and a lot of them are at the same stage in life, and you always want to support yourself or surround yourself with people that are similar. And I mean, that doesn't mean, I'm not talking friendship people, I'm talking about support business wise. We've been really lucky to we have a couple friends who own their own businesses, very similar to ours, do a lot of the same type of stuff. And like the other night, I actually called one of my friends who owns her own business and goes through the same thing. And I just had, I'm not kidding you, a half-hour vent about stuff. And it was great. She came back and was like, oh, we're having the same thing. This is what we did. And in that organic conversation, which isn't us sitting down and say, what do you do in your business? But just having that conversation with a friend got me a little bit out of that frustration and being able to vent, and gave me ideas of what to do. And we do that in social media. We do that in all kinds of different aspects. But part of what I wanted to talk about today was having that support group or those relationships. And Pete and I just think in business, the most important thing is relationships. It's not about the money. It's not about the marketing. It's not about what you do. Any business will succeed if you have good relationships. And that's with your clients, most importantly. But that's also good relationships within the community. You know, we know other businesses, they support us, we support them. And having those relationships that just support each other, look out for each other, give each other ideas, and recommend word of mouth. What's the best form of free advertising?
Oh, word of mouth by miles. Actually, by miles. And actually, a really good example of word of mouth and done well is all of those Facebook groups, like the Gympie information and advice groups and all that sort of stuff. You'll see them. Somebody will post, who's the best hairdresser in town, or who's the best mechanic in town. If you can get to a point, in my opinion, if you can get to the point where people are recommending you in those things, you are off to the races. Velmec Auto is a perfect example. Every time somebody mentions who's the best mechanic in town, Velmec are in there 20 times. So they've done a great job of supporting their clients and social media as well. So it sort of leads me to customer service. It's more important now than it's ever been, and oftentimes it's overlooked. Dare I say, sometimes locally there can be businesses that haven't got the best customer service or have got room for improvement. So would you agree that now more than ever, every person that walks in the door needs to be treated with absolute respect and like you're never going to see them again?
I would, and I wouldn't say more than ever, because I should say that should be the core of your business at any time. And I know now people are more stressed. So I think more than ever, we have to be delicate to people's feelings because we're in such stressful times. But I think that I love the fact that I know I can call up the majority of our clients, ex-clients, and go, hey, I've got somebody that wants a referral. and they're happy to refer. And it comes down to, I say relationship, you say customer service, but it is the same thing. It's, you know, just taking a deep breath. And when you're frustrated, and we've all had clients that may be unreasonable at times, it's figuring out how to deal with that without losing your temper. But I guess the one thing that I notice, and I've noticed in past businesses that I've been involved with, when you have a difficult client, it's about actually stepping back and calming the situation, and not necessarily going, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to fight you until you understand that, because a difficult client's never going to understand that. So it is about just taking a deep breath and going, okay, how can I help? And even if they're being unreasonable, you know, maybe less communication is more communication, in just taking it back and going, how can I help? Not, you need to do this, this, and this, and in order to like us, you need to do this, this, and this, but just, how can I help? What can I do to make you happy? And you'll often find, once they have their 15, 20-minute vent, they're happy. It's just having a voice.
Absolutely. And sometimes there's situations where it's just not going to be a match made in heaven, and perhaps you are better off recommending them to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And which leads me to real estate. How do you get along with the other agents in town? I personally think it's really important that we all work together, but that's not necessarily the way everybody looks at it. Do you guys work with others well?
Oh, really well. We made, when we opened our business, Pete and I made the conscious decision to work with other agencies. And the reason we do that, and we do that quite well, is because we all have to work together, and we're all here to promote Gympie. And that's the core of what we're doing, really. Yes, we're selling houses and there's all kinds of things involved, but it's the promotion of Gympie. Now, I know that 99% of the real estate agents in town, we have a relationship with. We go out for lunch with a lot of them. We talk to them. We have that relationship. If they're selling a house that I have a client that wants, it's an instant, yeah, absolutely, get them to come in. There are the background forms and etc. with that. But it's the knowledge of, we had an agent the other day that wanted to show one of our houses, and he called Pete and he said, look, I've just had a client that has double booked. Pete's like, I'll show them. It's fine. I will show your client our house. And that's how we work well together. But in this time, I'm going to be honest with you, it's worked out to be the best thing for us, because in real estate, in the rental side especially, everything's changed with COVID. And I am so blessed with the fact that I can call other real estate agents and say, how are you dealing with this? What's going on? What's happening? And without those relationships, we couldn't do that. I think to get along within the community and for people to know we get along, it means that when we're all competing for the same business, we're all going to win some and lose some. But I know that most of those real estate agencies aren't putting us down. They're saying, you know what? They're good. We may do this better. And that's sales. We may do this better, but they're good. And we get that feedback from customers that have had agents out that say they have great things to say about you. And that to me is promoting Gympie. That's about Gympie. That's not business versus business. That's about the fact that if we get petty, people take that on board.
Oh yes, and the very worst thing you can do in sales is deride somebody else's product or service. It's just it's really gutter sales tactics, and it doesn't work. It's got no long term benefits. Certainly wouldn't recommend it. I think we shouldn't take up much more of your time. I think we've covered some absolute gold there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great being here, being great able to talk to you.
Thank you so much, and it's been a fun week putting these videos together. I'm a bit tired, to be honest. It's been a big week. Thank you so much, and make sure you say good day to Pete for us.
Will do.
Excellent. That's that guy with that sexy British accent.
I'll tell him you said that.
Thank you so much, Keryn.
No problem. Thanks.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.